I am the punishment of God. If you had not committed great sins, God would not have sent a punishment like me upon you. A man's greatest joy is crushing his enemies. It is not sufficient that I succeed. All others must fail. Genghis Khan was the founder of the Mongol Empire, which he ruled from 1206 until his death in 1227. Born with the name Temujin, he acquired the title of Genghis Khan, likely meaning universal ruler, after unifying the Mongol tribes. Utterly ruthless with his enemies, countless innocents were slaughtered in his campaigns of terror. Millions, according to medieval chroniclers. Genghis Khan attacked the Chia and Jin states and then sunk China. In the other direction, his fast-moving armies invaded Persia, Afghanistan, and even Russia. Genghis Khan had a fearsome reputation, but he was an able administrator who introduced writing to the Mongols, created their first law code, promoted trade, and granted religious freedom by permitting all religions to be freely practiced anywhere in the Mongol world. In this way, Genghis Khan built the foundations of an empire which would, under his successors, ultimately control 1/5 of the globe. Genghis Khan's life is told in the Secret History of the Mongol, parts of which likely date to the first half of the 13th century, as well as later Chinese and Arab sources. He was born to aristocratic parents and was given the birth name of Temujin, named after a Tartar captive. The date of birth is not known for certain, with some scholars choosing 1162 and others 1167. Legend has it that the infant was born clutching a clot of blood in his right hand, an ominous omen of things to come. Temujin's mother was called Holun and his father Yisuge, who was a tribal leader, and he arranged for his son to marry Borte, the daughter of another influential Mongol leader, Dai Sezin. But before this plan could come to fruition, Temujin's father was poisoned by a rival. Temujin was still only 9 or 12 years old at that time, and so he could not maintain the loyalty of his father's followers. As a consequence, he and his mother were abandoned on the Asian steppe, left to die. However, the outcast family managed to forage and live off the land as best they could. Before long, the leadership and martial talents of Temujin brought him victories over local rivals, and his army grew in size. Things then got even worse when the young Temujin was captured by a rival clan leader, perhaps following an incident where Temujin may have killed one of his older half-brothers. Fortunately, Temujin was able to escape during the night, and gathering around him the few still loyal followers of his father, he joined up with Togril, chief of the Kerid, a tribe that his father had once helped. Temujin then married his betrothed from several years earlier, Borte. Before long, the leadership and martial talents of Temujin brought him victories over local rivals, and his army grew in size. The conflicts were bitter, with one tribal leader infamously boiling his captives in 70 large cauldrons. Temujin proved unstoppable though, and he managed to unify most of the different nomadic tribes which roamed the grasslands of Central Asia, each one composed of different but related clans, by creating a web of alliances between them. Temujin made himself the dominant leader through a mix of diplomacy, generosity, and his own ruthless use of force and punishments. Defeated tribes were sometimes compelled to join his army or killed to a man. Courageous himself in battle, Temujin would often reward bravery shown by the defeated, famously making a man called Jibi one of his generals because he had withstood a cavalry charge and fired an arrow that felled Temujin's own horse. As his army swelled to even greater proportions, Temujin defeated, over a period of 10 years, such rivals as the Tartars, Kirites, Naimans, and Merkids, until the Mongol Confederation met at a great conference or Kurultai at the Kervan River in 1206 and formally declared Temujin their leader. He was given the title of the legendary Genghis Khan, which likely means universal leader. The aim now was to combine this power base with the traditional Mongol skills of horsemanship and archery, and not only overcome traditional rival neighboring states, but build an empire which then could conquer the richest states in Asia, China. Genghis may not have started out with this plan, but that is exactly what happened. Despite his now elevated position, Genghis would remain close to his roots and continue to live in a large portable wool-felt tent. Indeed, until the Mongol Empire established itself, these nomadic people had not formed villages or towns but moved regularly between pastures as the seasons dictated. The Great Khan did not always look backwards though, and he insisted that the hetero only spoken Mongol language was now made into a written one using the script of the Uyghur Turks. Consequently, a law code, the Yasa, could now be drawn up with, amongst many other provisions, punishments for specific crimes laid out. Another innovation was the development of a postal system where horse-riding couriers could quickly carry messages across long distances and who were provided with regular stations for food, rest, and a change of a horse. The network would prove extremely useful during campaigns when military intelligence needed to be passed on quickly. Genghis also made his army more secure by avoiding the Mongol tradition of forming divisions based on tribes, which then might split due to age-old rivalry. To better secure his own position, the Great Khan formed and then expanded his elite bodyguard, the Kisikin, from 800 to 10,000 men. Traditionally, their loyalty was ensured by the corps' diverse composition and the fact its members were drawn from the sons and brothers of his senior commanders. Later, its members swore absolute loyalty to the Khan in return for special favors when it came to war booty. In addition, many of its members also acquired important administrative functions in conquered territories. The Mongols were now unified and their army had several advantages over those of their larger and more powerful neighbors. They were expert archers using their far-shooting composite bows and extremely tough soldiers capable of riding for days on end with minimal food and water. Their stocky but nimble horses were a weapon in themselves and capable of surviving harsh temperatures. The Mongols had both light and heavy cavalry, and each rider typically had up to 16 spare horses, giving them a very long range of maneuver. On top of that, the Mongols never turned down an opportunity to employ enemy tactics and technology themselves. They not only brought ferocious mobility to Asian warfare, but they were, thanks to their flexibility, quickly adapt at other types of battle too, like siege warfare and the use of gunpowder, missiles, and catapults. Adopting the skills and innovations of others became a fort in general, as the Khan's ministers and commanders came from some 20 different nations. Another advantage was that Genghis Khan knew how to exploit internal divisions in the enemy and stir up old rivalries that could weaken enemy alliances, information often acquired by spies and merchants. Finally, motivation was high because Mongol warfare was designed for one purpose only: to gain booty. Further, victorious commanders could expect to receive large swaths of land to govern as they pleased, while the Great Khan himself received tribute from those rulers permitted to stay in power as Mongol vassals. In short, once mobilized, the Mongol hordes were going to prove very difficult indeed to stop. Genghis Khan died on 18th August 1227 of an unknown illness, perhaps initially caused by falling from his horse while hunting a few months earlier. At the time, he was back in northwest China, besieging the Chaya state's capital, Cengage, and the news of the great leader's death was kept from the Mongol army until the city had capitulated and its inhabitants been slaughtered. His body was then transported back to Mongolia for burial, but the location of his tomb was kept a secret, a decision that has caused much speculation ever since. Medieval sources mention the tomb was in the vicinity of the sacred mountain Birkenkalden, and that his son Ugadai sacrificed 40 slave girls and 40 horses to accompany his father into the next life. Genghis knew that his successors would dispute control of the Mongol Empire after his death, and so he had already made provisions. The empire was to be divided amongst his sons, with each ruling a Khanate, and Ugadai, the third son, becoming the new Great Khan in 1229, a position he would maintain until his death in 1241. Over the next 2 decades, China would become entirely dominated by the Mongols. The Mongol Empire would then go on to more campaigns, including in the Middle East, Korea, and Japan, with varying success, but ultimately creating one of the largest empires ever seen. Genghis Khan has left a much longer shadow than his empire, though, as he has come to be seen as nothing less than a godlike figure in the region and a father of the Mongolian people. Worshipped in the medieval period, his veneration has been revived in modern times, and today he continues to be honored with special ceremonies in the modern Mongolian capital of Ulaanbaatar.